Well, I don't see anyone else joining at this moment, but that doesn't mean folks won't join us later. So once again, welcome. My name is Jessica Olson. This is our third Vegetative Barriers Subcommittee for the Arvin Lamont community. And like I mentioned, we're really excited. This is a little bit different than our last two subcommittee meetings, which were much more focused on the request for proposals, and we'll go over that, a reminder of what that is and what that means. But today we have a couple of things on the agenda to go over with you. Of course, first, I want to once again thank you all for being here and welcome our community co-hosts, Bianca and Cesar, and thank them for not only their leadership on the community, but also for working with you all to put this meeting on the agenda. The other thing that will, after our welcome introductions, there's really two main things that we want to talk to you about. The first is, and we're going to sneak it into the first item, we're going to provide for you a little update on what's going on with the request for proposals for the Vegetative Barriers program. We're also going to review feedback that we've heard from you all over the past few years, but also feedback we just got a few days ago from community members, and then also solicit real-time feedback on locations that you want to prioritize for vegetative barriers. So that's this item right here. And then finally, we want to end with a reminder, but also maybe an update from you all about the outreach that we've done as an air district. But here, I know a lot of you have also worked to do outreach for this program, and we definitely want to save space for you all to talk about the great work you're doing. And then, of course, any questions or open floor items you have to end the meeting. So that's our intent today. I'll stop there and see if there's any questions about the agenda before I pass it off to our colleagues to give us an update on the RFP. Great. Awesome. Well, I'm going to pass it to our incentives team, who David Lopez, he's the supervisor on our incentives team over this program, and he's going to just talk a little bit about the RFP and next steps, which actually this meeting today perfectly sets us up for. So we're really excited about it. Go ahead, David. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, and good afternoon. Pleasure to talk to all of you. Wanted to give you some updates on our request for proposals for the Arvin Lamont Vegetative Barriers program. Just a couple of reminders. I'll go over just some little things and then give you an update on potential next steps. So the request for proposals opened on September 9th of this year, so just about 45 days or so. We had the RFP, or is the request for proposals we call it, open for those 45-day period. And the request for proposals closed on this past Friday, October 25th. The district unfortunately did not receive any proposals during these 45 days, but we did have the ability to, extend the solicitation period so that potentially maybe applicants that were considering applying, but maybe just due to timing, weren't able to submit their documents or whatever. And maybe, there's maybe some people determining, a typical project they might want to do. So right now the team is considering and proposing extending the deadline for the request for proposals to looking at January 3rd of 2025. I know that sounds like a long time ago, but it's just around the corner. So that gives us about 60 days for new projects or maybe partners to reach out to us, talk about what they might be thinking to do, and hopefully get some proposals in within that time frame, so we can start eventually planting trees in the community. So that's kind of it right now, but we're happy to hear any comments, questions, or suggestions, and let us know.
And this is Jessica. I'll just add that to David's point, once we reopen, all of the additional suggestions and outreach that we want to keep doing that we talk about today will help us relaunch that request for proposals. We'll talk a little bit later about the outreach we've done, and I know you've all done some great outreach. So right now, are there any questions about, I see Bianca's hand, about or comments just about maybe just general support for reopening until the beginning of January? Go ahead, Bianca.
Sorry, I have a really bad cold. But I was wondering, I know that Gustavo had sent out yesterday contact information for potential candidates for the green vegetative barriers. Is the air district planning to do something about that, or maybe I'm going too ahead and you haven't presented that piece?
We have not, but we will always just jump right to Bianca. That's such a great point. That's exactly what we will do. So Bianca, just to help kind of, because she has a cold, maybe I can help add some context to what Bianca was saying. So Gustavo Aguirre and the team at CRPE and other folks, I'm sure, were involved in not only getting feedback that we'll share with you today about additional locations that folks are interested in, but also work directly with the Ag Commissioner to identify some of the particular areas folks were hoping that maybe farmers or growers could take advantage of the program, and provided us with their additional contact information. In some cases, we have that contact information and we did already reach out, but in others we don't. And so to Bianca's point, when, assuming you're all okay with us opening up, and soliciting more, which I can't imagine that we're not excited about getting some applicants. Bianca, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to call all of those people. And we're hoping not only to call them, but also call them in addition to sending them, once again, some flyers and outreach material about the program. Our team did this the last time, and we can also offer this time to host an informational workshop or webinar about how to apply. There are a lot of different things that we can do to help make it easier for folks to take advantage. Any other questions before I get to the mapping? Go ahead, Bianca.
I am sorry for asking this question. I remember that I'm not sure if it's still open, but I do remember that there's also the ag equipment exchange program. Is it possible to do multiple applications at once if one of the growers does decide to do that or offer that potential so it could be used also to mitigate a little bit of the dust or any of the air contamination coming into the cities? I'm just wondering if it could be a double task. I know it's a lot for the air district, but you kill two birds with one stone in that case.
Never too much for us in that regard. That is we run dozens of simultaneous incentives programs, and our team is already doing a lot of outreach, and I think has a good amount going in terms of the agricultural equipment replacement measure. But to your point, Bianca, that's something that you've all been really helpful in voicing your interest in not just pairing them up, because that's always the case for us. That one's always open. It's not like an open and closed situation. But also just, hey, while we're doing this outreach about this, let's make sure they also know about vegetative barriers. And that's something we're committed to continuing to do as well. Any other questions about that before we get to showing you some of the great feedback we've already heard from Gustavo and others, but also soliciting more from you today? I'm going to have Eric pull up a map, and you're going to recognize it and also recognize some additions. So what we did is yesterday we received a really great email from some community organizers led by Gustavo Aguirre, who had highlighted areas of our original vegetative barrier map that you all helped put together with us. And in highlighting these areas, basically suggested additional areas that you all wanted to make sure people were aware you were interested in installing vegetative barriers. So we went ahead and Eric added all of those areas in pink. So the only difference between the green and the pink on what you're about to see is that pink we just added this morning based on the comments from yesterday. And I know it doesn't show up on here, but Eric is just going to show you as he clicks on each one of the pink ones, you can see the lines. They are outlining exactly where we saw some of the concerns that you all drew for us. So maybe Eric, I don't know if you just want to take a second to maybe just walk through, maybe since you're already on Arvin, if you want to walk through Arvin really quickly, and then however you want to go through it, just to show folks what we heard. And then we can pause and see if there's any additional questions or feedback folks have.
Sure, thank you. Hello, everybody. This is Eric, Eric Salas again. I'll go ahead. I'm sharing my screen. Yeah, so as Jessica mentioned, these are some of the suggestions we received. I know that we did compile this list a few years ago and it's ongoing, and we want to make sure that all of your voices are heard. So our first bubble right here, this is in Arvin. Gustavo had this great suggestion to put barriers along the high school right here, all the way down Comanche. And as you can see, they do overlap a little bit with some of our other or our previous from 2022 suggestions as well. So going into another new suggestion, Gustavo did add that there's a little area right here along the 223 by Bear Mountain. And then I'll go ahead and zoom out. And then just as a reminder, to feel free to go ahead and click on all of these. I could give you the link after this, and folks could go ahead and take a look on their own. But right here on Sycamore and Comanche Road, just to kind of connect dots. Okay. And then here is one of the new suggestions right here along El Camino. And then right here. And then quickly go to, I believe, yes, Sunset Elementary. Oh, little text bubbles covering it. But it's in the U shape right here of the elementary school. And I think I can maybe zoom out. Yeah, you guys could see that right there. Okay. And here's Vinland Elementary School. Gustavo again had the great idea to kind of encompass or surround the school with vegetative barriers. And then we're working our way up towards Lamont. And then here is another great suggestion on Buena Vista and then Vinland. And feel free to slow me down, tell me to stop, or if you wanted more clarification or to talk a little bit more about these. And then on the back side of Rolfe Street in Buena Vista. Here, let's go ahead and zoom in right here. Along DeGiorgio in this little neighborhood right here. And then this one's the cross intersection, so it wasn't easy to kind of demonstrate that, but I wanted to let folks know that there's a street right here from DeGiorgio, and then Gustavo did want to let folks know that this was one of the suggestions that they brought up. So exit out of that, making our way to the top of the map. And along the 184 and kind of makes a backwards L down Panama. So kind of protecting the homes right here. Okay. And then I believe there's 3 more. So just kind of coinciding with our last suggestions from 2022. Here's another suggestion on Mountain View Road. And then Mountain View High School. And yes, one more. All right. And along the 184, reaching to Panama Street from
Thank
Fairview.
you. Thanks, Eric. This is Jess again. I think one of the things that Eric and I realized as we saw all of the additional suggestions was really reflecting what Gustavo had mentioned during our CSC meeting, which was in looking at the map, it felt like, well, if we're going to list places, let's make sure we're listing the full street or showing the full area, or while we're at it, picking all the schools and trying to see if we can indicate that all of the schools are worthy of, or should be interested in vegetative barriers. So that was, if I could kind of summarize the theme of the additions, it was really to finish Comanche Road or finish the area around the high school or the middle school or the elementary school. So I definitely wanted to just make sure we put it on the map as soon as we got it, so you all could hear that we heard the suggestions. And then I'm going to say one more thing, and then I'd love to open it up for suggestions and additions and comments. But the one thing I just want to remind you all, and I think everyone's really aware of this, is this map is going to help us do 2 things. It will help us, one, direct outreach to people we know you are interested in having vegetative barriers around. So that includes the farmers and the growers, like we talked about with great partnership with the Ag Commissioner. And it also includes those schools. We have already done outreach to the schools, but now seeing it on the map maybe is more enticing to those schools. Hey, this is what community members really prioritized giving funding for. So those are, two pieces of sort of the outreach that's going to be helpful. The other thing I want to mention, though, about this map is, of course, this does not mean that vegetative barriers will be planted in all these places. And I think everyone knows that these are all going to be suggestions for folks to voluntarily take advantage of the resources we have to do these projects. But I just want folks to keep reminding us that this is going to help us with outreach and help us identify places that folks can apply to when they apply to the RFP once it opens again. But it is not meant to say, hey, we're going to plant trees in all these places, because we can only control, what the air district can control, which is offering the funding. We can't make people take advantage. But that's what we're here for today, is to talk about outreach a little bit. But I'll pause and see if there's any questions about the additional areas or any additional suggestions you all had. Go ahead, Bianca. And we can pull up the map if you're going to talk about the map.
Well, thank you, Eric, for such an amazing job highlighting every single piece that we added in the mapping. I do want to appreciate that you did that work. I also wanted to add that as adding some of the schools, I did have a conversation with Stephanie in the past that one of the schools actually in the area that Eric added were wanting to do not the green vegetative barrier but the urban greening. Is that RFP available also, or it's going to take some time to open up? I know there are two different type of things, but they're both trees, and I had it in my to-do list, so I wanted to ask it here if it's possible, or maybe in the CSC meeting. I just wanted to ask that, and then I have another follow-up.
That's a great question. They are separate, and we do not have the RFP open for urban greening. I think we were really intentional by separating the two, so folks were very aware of what one was and what the other was. That said, though, that doesn't mean we can't start working on putting it together and bringing it forward for you all to consider before we release it in the future. And that doesn't mean we can't start doing outreach about it. I think that's important to remember. These sort of things do take planning, and letting folks know about it and knowing that the RFP will open in the future might still be really useful information.
And then I also wanted to add another follow-up questions. So I actually did some research with the contact information that the Ag Commissioner provided to us. And at least 1/3 of the growers that are around the area where we're hoping to do the green vegetative barriers, their goal or motto is helping communities and that type of motto of like environmentally friendly, things like that. Is it possible us as community members do the outreach, or the air district is going to do their own outreach? I'm more than welcome to provide this information to you. I did the background information yesterday, but I wanted to see if you needed it, or if you needed more information. Us as Coley, me and Cesar could talk to you maybe outside the phone call and just provide you that information.
Yes to everything. Send us what you have and we'll do our own outreach. I think there's something to be said about the district, because we're the ones that will answer all the technical questions folks have. It might be a matter of either Eric from my team makes the first call, but it's really like David and C and Angela, like folks on the incentives team, are actually answering the questions and having the conversations. That said, I would never stop you, and if anything, encourage folks. You are all living there. You're all in the community. You might live next to some of these folks or be neighbors with them, or their kids might go to your school. That outreach is sort of the main benefit, right, of having this community-based work. And so I would never say don't do that outreach. It could be double. It could be, yep, I already heard from Bianca, sometimes it's squeaky wheel gets, the oil, right? And so the more outreach we do from all the angles, maybe the more successful we can be. But we would love that information if you have additional information.
Yes, I'm looking into the one by El Camino. My daughter actually goes to that school, but it's Grimway Academy, Grimway, that has that crop. The ag commissioner gave us that information. Grimway's motto is to have environmentally friendly in the area. So that's why I wanted to see if needed or anywhere I could help out, maybe talking to the principals, seeing where they could work something out. Let me know, and I could help in that sense.
That sounds great. Yeah, but definitely send us whatever information you have in addition. We do have contact information, but sometimes, the person we work with at the school is maybe a different type of person than the folks that you know or that are making decisions on different things, right? We work with schools a lot about children's health and exposure to air pollution. That might be different than like the person who does landscaping or plants trees or makes decisions on purchases. So definitely we love lots of different contacts. Any other thoughts or questions on the map that Eric just shared? I think the most important thing I can say about that map is it is suggestions and it is not exclusive. If later a project comes and it's a place maybe that's next to or not quite one of those streets, either way, we will come to you all once we get hopefully a couple of projects and say, hey, this is where folks are planning to plant, and this is the impact it will have, on the community. And you'll all still be able to see where those projects will take place. And so we definitely want to encourage people to take the community priorities. And on the flip side, take the community priorities and use them to encourage people. So that's going to be the biggest benefit to that map. But if you're later thinking, oh my gosh, I forgot this one particular street, or you know what, the person I reached out to lives next to me, but it's not on that map, that's okay. They could still, we would love for them to apply or at least to call the air district and work with us and see if they're interested. Any questions before we talk a little bit more about outreach? Or any other thoughts? Eric, I'm going to have you drop the link to the social pinpoint in there. And that way, folks, you guys can all take a look on your own. And you can always reach out to myself or Eric. I know Eric calls a lot of you before the meetings. And just add any sort of other thoughts you had, and we can make sure it's reflected on the map. Thanks, Eric. Great. All right. Well, the other piece on our agenda, which we've actually already talked a lot about, but I definitely want to open it up to all of you, is Vegetative Barriers Program outreach. So ongoing outreach strategies to increase participation, or in this case, to restart our increased participation in this program. So as David mentioned, we didn't have anyone apply to our first round. We are proposing to open it up for another 60 days, which gives us 60 days to do really great outreach. We've already heard from Bianca tonight about doing outreach in a couple capacities. One is to directly reach out to the farmers that Bianca and her team worked with the ag commissioner to get numbers for. And those farmers are the ones that are farming along those priority areas that are on the map Eric shared. So that is a number one goal for us, Bianca, is to immediately start that outreach and let folks know that we're reopening and that there's this opportunity. The number two thing we're going to do is, we've already done it twice, but we will continue to do it, is we will work with the Ag Commissioner and the Kern County Farm Bureau to send out another round of emails with information soliciting applicants. We have already done that. That means it went to every farmer in the area from two different angles, right? One from the Farm Bureau and one from the Ag Commissioner. But that doesn't mean that every farmer checked their email, or that maybe folks needed another reminder. So we believe that with the direct calls and with that outreach, that we're going to help reach a lot more farmers, or, at least encourage them again this time. And then the second piece, which again, thanks Bianca for the discussion earlier, is that now that we have all of those great school locations on a map, we're wondering if that might be a little more enticing for folks. And so we'll reach back out to those schools once again with the same information we've been doing, but just maybe with a more direct approach and saying, hey, look, here's a map. This is where folks in the community identified priorities, and maybe walk them through that as well. So those are our two district outreach things. We also have, we've created a one-pager that's sort of an FYI on how vegetative barriers work. That has been going out with all of our outreach materials, and we're happy to send that back out to all of you so you can use that as well. As a reminder, that piece of information helped folks just kind of understand what the different, like what a vegetative barrier is and what it entails and what the requirements are for the RFP. So we'll definitely make sure that that's updated and that we can get that out to folks as well. But I'll pass it out over to you. I know, and oh, Gustavo is here. Gustavo, I just wanted to, maybe we don't need to do the whole meeting over, but I just wanted to thank you. We spent most of the meeting, and maybe Eric, I don't know if you could just redrop in the chat because it's probably happened since he's joined. Is Gustavo, we went through, we mapped all of the locations that you sent us on a new map, and shared that map with the community, and didn't get any other additional suggestions, but I know a lot of folks are really grateful for the additions. And what we were reflecting, Gustavo, was that the additions weren't just around farms, but also around schools. And so we were just talking, kind of wrapping up the meeting a little bit about the outreach that we're planning to do based on that. But maybe I'll pass it to you or Bianca or others. I would love to hear directly from you, Gustavo, about the work that you've already been doing with the Ag Commissioner and some outreach work that the community's already been able to do for this, if you're so willing to share.
Yeah, thank you, Jessica. Well, I don't have much other than I think I'm assuming that you already shared, that we have been working with the Ag Commissioner, trying to have a new way of communicating with him. I think he's been very supportive. Just for folks, we are been having smaller meetings with the Ag Commissioner. I think that's been working better maybe than having kind of checking or trying to make things happen in the monthly meetings. I think directly communication is been working. Yeah, and I think as you mentioned that Glenn outreach to the growers that we suggested that for the potential project areas. But definitely, I think moving forward, it will be good if the district can do the outreach, and we're also thinking that figure out how we the residents and the community steering committee members can maybe outreach also to some of the growers, and potentially also if some of the growers are maybe willing to maybe meet in person with some of us, I think that's more effective. So those are some of the ideas that we also are considering doing that, but definitely, any help in the outreach that the district and other folks can help us, that will be great. And also, if the district, any of your staff do outreach, and if growers have questions, and there is a chance maybe for either Zoom meeting or in-person meeting, just let us know, and I think some of us can make ourselves available to meet with the growers.
This is Jessica. That sounds great. So yes, everything you just said sounds good to us. And I was just reflecting with Bianca that we definitely want to do as much outreach as we've been doing and more, grow our outreach, but we think it's better that it comes from all angles. I think if someone hears from me and they heard from Bianca yesterday, that's just better. That's not, we need to kind of keep reminding them of the opportunities. And I think that's a great idea. Something that we will also do again, or we can also do again as needed, is our team offered and held an applicant workshop. So once folks are really interested in applying, our team, David and C and Angela and all the folks on our team can be really supportive of interested applicants by walking them through and answering their questions and maybe making it less intimidating to apply, because sometimes maybe that's the case too. So I agree with all of that, and that's something, all of those approaches are something we're interested in doing. So I think for us, next steps on the Air District side are sort of threefold. One is to call all of the contacts that we just received, even if we've already called them, but like starting fresh, we're going to call all the contacts that we've just received and let them know that we are reopening the RFP. We're going to reopen the RFP and send it out to all of you with additional outreach material so you can also do some outreach. And then we're going to also, once again, call the schools, let them know it's reopened, and then really, I think this time, talk more specifically about how it was the community members that now identified that area based on the map that we're going to share with them as well. So we hope kind of all of that will help us be successful this next round. Heard the announcement, but we are going to reopen the RFP for 60 days, so for a longer period of time, which will close it on, David, can you remind me the dates?
January 3rd.
January 3rd.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And since, the holidays are, coming soon, I'm not sure how much we're going to be able to do, but, I think after, this reopening time frame, maybe, extending it in January, because I think during holidays, people start, like right now, people start thinking on holidays.
I know, you're not wrong. Well, what we're thinking is that we can open it, see what happens. It doesn't ever, we've done this multiple rounds in other places. But we definitely, in the case, say that we open it and then someone applies like next week, we don't want them to have to wait 60 or 90 days to hear back from us. And so at least with these incremental pieces, we can maybe get some folks that are ready, and then maybe we can open it again if we need to.
Okay, just a clarifying question. So now that you will open it for 60 days, so you will wait the 60 days before reviewing and considering, let's say that you get like hopefully 5 applications. You will wait the 60 days before considering all the applications? Okay.
Yeah, the way that it
Got it.
works, unless we have a rolling application process, which isn't what we're proposing, we usually wait. That doesn't mean we don't give them maybe feedback if that's the case, but we usually wait till it closes. That way, if we have maybe more than the funding amount allows, that way we can score all of the proposals, work with you all as the subcommittee, because it's not a first come, first serve. It's a apply by a specific date. Great. So I think we have a good summary of next steps. We've definitely heard a lot, and I just can't thank you, Gustavo, and Bianca, and Cesar, and all the folks enough for all of the work you've done behind the scenes. But I'll pass to Bianca if there's other questions.
If seeing interest from folks that are applying, would there be a potential to extend it for a longer period of time, or is it just first come, first serve? Well, not first serve, but all the applicants that are applying, would there be another RFP maybe available? I know that harvesting season could happen maybe early spring again. I'm just wondering if they're able to do another RFP if being closed by the certain date that you were mentioning, January the 3rd. It's just a question.
Yeah, so we can do what we've ended up doing in Shafter, which is we opened it, we closed it, we had about 30%, not even, maybe 20% of the funds used. And so we ended up kind of opening it after that on more of a rolling basis. And so that's probably what we'll do if we don't use up all the funding based on interested parties getting under contract. María.
Hola, buenas tardes a todos. Yo solamente quiero dar mi comentario y más que nada darles las gracias al distrito que que están
the
haciendo
district
mucho
that is doing
trabajo
a lot of
y sobre
work.
todo que
And
agregaron
more than
las
anything,
áreas
that you
que
added
el
on
Gustavo
those
les mandó
areas that Mr.
y
Gustavo
también
had sent to you.
para
And also
decirles que
to
nosotros
say
seguimos
that
trabajando
we
como
continue to
comunidad
work as
y
a
vamos a estar
community, and we're
tanto
going
con
to
Gustavo Aguirre, con los
we're
demás,
going to be
con
following
Bianca,
up with Gustavo
para ver si
Aguirre and
tenemos
also
que
with
ir a hablar con los
Bianca, just to
rancheros,
make sure in case
si
we have to
tenemos
go
que ir a
talk
hablar
to
con
the
los dueños
farmers, if we
de
have to go
esas
talk to the
tierras
owners
que
of
para que nos
these
dejen poner las
different
barreras
areas so that they can
vegetativas
let us put on
y
those
seguir
vegetative barriers
trabajando
and
y me
just
da mucho gusto
continue to work.
que
And
todo este
I'm
trabajo que
just
estamos haciendo
very
para reducir la
I'm very
contaminación
happy to know
está
that all
dando
this work
ya
that we're
sus
doing to
frutos
limit
poco a
that
poquito
pollution is
y,
slowly
y
getting
solo eso,
or
darle
giving
comentario y
results.
darle
And
las
just to
gracias y
say
seguir
that, to
trabajando,
give
como
that
dice el
comment is
Gustavo,
to
se
say thank
vienen
you so much. And
los
such as
días de fiesta,
Mr. Gustavo
pero
said,
esperemos
continue on
que en
because those
antes
festive
de que
days
lleguen
and
las fiestas
celebration
aquí no
days are
apliquen
coming. And before
y si
those
no aplican, pues a
party
ver si
days
en
come,
enero
hopefully everybody
llegan
starts applying. And if they don't, then hopefully by January,
piense
uh,
más que nada en la comunidad y vean que dan un
there'll
buen
be somebody
ejemplo
who
que
does
quieramos
think
para
about
que
the
se vea
community
bonito
and
con
that we
árboles, sino
want
que más que
something.
nada
It's
es
not just so that
para
it
que
looks
nos protejamos
beautiful
como
and to have
comunidad
trees, but more
de
than
todos
anything to
esos
protect us as a
contaminantes que se nos
community from
vienen
all
a
those
nuestras
pollutants
casas
that come to our
ojalá
homes.
que ellos
And
vean
hopefully
eso y
they
no
can
lo
see
vean por
that,
el
and
lado
hopefully they don't
de
see
que
it in a
queremos
way that
ver
we want
árboles
to
alrededor de
see
nuestras
trees
comunidades,
around our
sino que es
communities,
para
but
el
it's
bien
more
de nuestra
for
salud.
the good
Ese
of
es el
our health.
comentario que yo
That's
quería.
my comment that I wanted to share.
Thank you, Maria. I think that was very well said. I appreciate it. And I have to give a shout out to Eric, who added those very quickly to the map. So thanks, Eric. Any other thoughts or questions before we close out? Okay, Gustavo.
Yeah, you mentioned that you will share some materials. I think, do you know when you can share them? Because as I mentioned, I think we may do some maybe in-person outreach, and it will be great if we have, um, those materials with us. Maybe we can print them and take those with us.
Yes, no, that makes sense to us. When we reopen for that 60 days, David, what day is that opening day?
Well, we were the 60 days was based off of we were starting today. So we can wait a little bit if that's the need, or we can kind of just make a quick adjustment saying, hey, our deadline has been extended, but
Gotcha.
and that's what
Well,
we
I
were
was
thinking. But
I was just wondering, I wonder if we want to wait until Monday, we can have all of it ready, the materials, the email, the opening, and then that also adds another 6 days. So it's more like January 9th. So it gets people past the holidays. And then Gustavo, that can be my answer to your question is we can get everything to everyone Monday, which is gives us also, David, a little time for our team to like translate an email and get all of the materials ready to announce the reopening.
of course, we'll happily do that. Thank you.
That'd be cool. Okay, awesome. Great. Well, we're so excited, and I just want to echo Maria's point about all of the work that everyone's doing together and all of the collaboration that's happened. I can tell that we've always known this is one of the top priorities in the community, and I can just tell that folks are still really engaged and that there's a lot of engagement on the agency and community organization and resident level. So I just want to thank everyone for that. And let you know that you'll hear from us on Monday about the next steps, and we can work more directly, and even Gustavo have a meeting with you and your team about kind of some of the more direct outreach if you want, so we can schedule something after Monday. Great. Well, thank you all so much. We really appreciate your time. Have a great night.
Buenas noches.
Right,
Buenas
thank
noches.
you.
Buenas noches.